Welcome back to A Bit of Curiosity. I'm your host, Jeremy Howlett. Today I'm joined by Scott Paul. If you don't know Scott, well, you're not going to find him on LinkedIn, and we can talk about why. But he has done a lot of stuff in his past, and we'll get into a lot of it. I don't really have a bio for Scott today, so we're just going to dive right in and just, talk about everything that is Scott Paul and what churns in his mind a little bit. So, to dive in, like, I don't even know where to start with this conversation. So first off, thanks for taking some time to jump on with me today.
Start
Um,
with LinkedIn.
yeah, let's go there. I've got so many questions written down. It's like, okay, but none of them really flow in a natural, just because I think that defines who you are, right? Like all over the place. But yeah, explain to us why we can't find you on LinkedIn.
Well, you can't find Scott Paul on LinkedIn, but you can find Scott X on LinkedIn. LinkedIn
Okay.
won't let me make a new account with my name. My name is forbidden to be made, at least at my IP addresses or here in Utah. And I don't know why. They won't tell me. But I think after my fourth or fifth time of getting banned, they couldn't figure out how to really let me come back on. Too high risk for whatever kind of culture they're trying to have there. And I don't know why. I was banned two years ago exactly, actually, and I was just making content about here in Utah. We're kind of living a theocracy. There's a big church that's headquartered here, and some of my comments weren't even negative towards that culture or that group, but I did have in my time one of my jobs. LinkedIn doesn't even check if what you put in your history is true or not. You can
Right.
work at Amazon, you can be the president of the United States. They're not going to tell you uh, about your work history. They're not going to filter that or anything. But I think I did get filtered because I worked for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as their high net worth tithe collector, and so my job was to help bring people back into the church to get their 10% who had left, the high net worth, and that was a made up job. I thought it was really funny, so I had that in my bio. That, that I think that was enough that someone in the high up of the church that works at Microsoft that owns LinkedIn probably said, "Hey, slap this guy in the wrist. He's being a little bit of a punk." That was the last time I had a LinkedIn account. So if you want to keep your LinkedIn account fresh and alive, just don't go make up stuff. They don't really like meme accounts, or they don't like themed accounts like you'd see on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. LinkedIn wants to keep it really professional.
Right. Yeah, no, they are definitely leaning into the white collar for sure.
Yeah.
So that was the
Which
last.
I think they need to loosen up a little though. It's a little
Sure.
bit just too much.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the last time you got banned, but you've been banned a few times, right? Like you've had to come back
Yeah.
on.
During the crypto era, you see some Bitcoin back there. During that last cycle, boom cycle, for felt like it was starting like 2021, went to about 2023. I would say things about crypto, and they were slapping everybody that would say anything if it felt like a promotion. And I was involved and an investor in a lot of big crypto companies and stuff, but I think Sam Bankman-Fried and all those people were getting in trouble, and they just went after anybody talking. So that was one of the times. I used to do giveaways on LinkedIn where I would literally just say something and give away $100 to my favorite answer or comment, and that got me banned. During COVID, I made a mask company out of like a company here in town, made a cool filter around an injection molded mask and trying to get those out as many people as I could, and that got me banned for talking about masks during COVID. So either I'm just a bad guy and I get involved in really shady things, which is probably the truth, or LinkedIn's got to loosen up a little bit, and I'll let you guys figure out which one that is.
Could be a combination of both,
Yeah,
but
I do link. I'm on LinkedIn as Scott X today, and so Scott X is my profile, and I'm my only thing in there. I don't have any work history. I'm just the co-founder of a company called PHI.
and we'll get into Fi a little bit, but talk to us. So, do you follow anybody on LinkedIn?
Yeah, what I like about LinkedIn is it actually doesn't feel like I'm connected to people. I think now they have followers. You can either follow someone or connect to them. I try to just make connections there. And then my account that I have right now was made up by a friend of mine as a meme account, and so he had it. I took it over. I made it into me, and I had grown it to about 1,300 connections. But I don't even know. To be honest, I get on LinkedIn maybe once a month right now to see
Well, and
a
that's
friend's post or something.
yeah, and that's part of the reason why I asked the question is I read your post on Substack that you posted probably 3 weeks ago now, just after your trip to Paris,
I
and
unfollowed everybody.
where you unfollowed everybody. So
Yeah.
let's kind of back this up a little bit, right? So January, right? We were supposed to record this podcast 3 months ago, and I think yeah, and I think it was 3 days before we were supposed to post this. Your wife had posted on, or she had sent an email out. I think she posted on your Substack. I think that's where I
You
saw
did,
it,
yeah.
and that you had got in a ski accident and got a
Yep.
concussion,
Yeah.
and so per that post, I was like, well, I don't think we're getting on our conversation.
I could have made it,
So
but it would have been a different type of podcast. I might have not been all there. Yeah, I took about 2 months to really recover from that ski accident where I hit my head, had a brain injury, a TBI, broke my back, still recovering. Right before I came out here to do the podcast, my wife was using this cool little buffer to just try to get my muscles loosened up. My arm's not there yet, but I'm going to go try pickleball for the first time today and just see if I can kind of
yeah,
loosen up my rotator cuff. So I took a nice beating to the whole body on January 7th. I was out in the hospital for 4 days where I wasn't even awake really. So a lot of people didn't know if I was, in what condition I'd come back. It was a scary time. Now, luckily, I didn't have any trauma from personally because I was out cold. I didn't have to worry about me. I was just eating food somehow and taking some breaths in. But my recovery has been pretty amazing. I actually have been doing really well and trying to have the best energy towards that recovery. So I feel like it's been super good times, and my wife has been there to give for me, and then my brain has done better than I think it's ever done. I used to be super ADHD, and now I read books for like 3 hours at a time, and I've been off screens. I've been off my phone for the 3 months. I still don't use a phone. So I have an Apple Watch to kind of get communications, and then I have my laptop that I use for writing here and there, and then like a podcast. But the doctors really wanted me to get off screens at the beginning, and I thought if it was good for my brain then, it's probably good for my brain now. So that's kind of leads into why I started unfollowing everybody on Instagram and Twitter. Is I just realized that I was a lot of my time before the injury and even after, I would use my wife would use her face. My phone is controlled by her face and password now, so I'm kind of like a teenager with screen time. But that's by my choice. I don't want the code. I actually like not having that, because when I'd get on, I'd open up Instagram and I would just find myself like just scrolling up forever and just looking at a bunch of stories that I'm like, there's got to be better things I can do. I mean, I love all these people, but not enough that I want to be sitting in their life for any amount of time. And so I started unfollowing a few people, and then the principle of it, I just like, wait, this feels good, purging. I wanted to get, so I wasn't following anybody, so there was no stories, there was nothing popping up in my feed of anybody, and then I would only be able to search people up and see what they were doing if I wanted to see what a friend was up to. And then it was so boring to open Instagram when I had no one there that so I unfollowed everyone, and I just deleted the app off my phone. So I still have an account, but I'm just not using it. I'll use it on my on my laptop. I'll go see messages once in a while. But that was just kind of it was kind of started as a way to heal my brain, and then it just became cathartic to unfollow everyone. And I haven't felt the urge to go and follow anyone. It hasn't been a missing piece of my life. I don't know how to say it other than that. And I think that would apply to almost everyone who uses those things casually. I don't think anyone would really miss it. I know some teenagers communicate, like my girls communicate exclusively through apps like that. I still use text message, but the social apps for me have been a really nice hiatus to not have to just have that time and attention go to that. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. Let me ask you, because I think one, right, like social media has created faux connections.
Hmm.
It's like you run into somebody that you haven't seen in years, and you're not connected to them, but you know what they've been up to for the last several years because
Yeah.
you've seen their posts occasionally on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? And so you kind of think you're connected, but you're not connected at all. Like you haven't had a conversation with that person, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it creates these faux connections. But let me ask you, you brought up one thing that so I've always like we've had several interactions in the past, and I've always known Scott as kind of the ADHD, like kind of scatterbrained Scott, right? Like you've done a lot of great things with that scatterbrain, right? But you talk about how you can actually sit down and read a book. Do you attribute that more to the brain injury or to the just being off of screens or a combination of both?
I think it was easy at the beginning because I actually had zero screens, and so I was just almost addicted to reading, like I was, using a phone. It's like that was a way for feed my brain. I was the dopamine that I could get from learning new things. But then I found that I felt better getting lost in a book than I did getting lost into a phone. I don't know why, but I started realizing that these books that I was reading, and one of them was about how Siddhartha became the Buddha by Deepak Chopra, and there's a few other like just really interesting religious, and then classics that like from Plato. Yeah, I've been actually having AI create mini books for me. So
Okay.
I asked it to give me a 3,000 word, whatever you want to call it, like a
Like a
quick
cliff
read
note.
on, yeah, on Cliff Notes on like Plato's Republic or the Odyssey. And that's been really fun for me to consume the core ideas of some of these classics that I only really knew by name, but I didn't know like what the essence was of these books. And so I've been doing that with a lot of the classics and then reading the full classics too. So I'm like every day I'm getting through. And then some of my friends are authors and I'm reading their books that I've been given or have on my shelves that I just haven't been getting around to. And so I think it's a huge part of the fact that it's giving me the same need or the same delivery of like dopamine that a phone can give. And I just replaced that. Ice cream for popsicle kind of in a way.
Yeah.
But there was the brain injury gave me the space and maybe just the reset. Like the only thing when with the brain getting hit like it did, it was like I honestly, I mean, it's just such a simple analogy, but your phone or your computer used to get just so gunked up that you had to reset it for the operation system to work. I think I just had way too many programs open in my life. Like I was
Yeah.
running like so many little games in the background. I just had to crash a bunch of apps. And that's what crashing my skis did. It closed all of the applications that were open and using up all my RAM and all my memory. And so I think that put me in a space to get what I needed from books. It's like now I'm using new programming. I had a chance to get new habits and install new apps. And so my favorite app now is book reading and
Yeah.
meditation. A lot of just I can sit in silence and look at stuff. Mostly because I had to do a lot of sleeping and sitting at first, but then I got comfortable with that, and I'm like I actually start to crave just getting away. I used to be a very, very social person. I still am, but I was uncomfortable with silence or not being around people. And now I'm like really comfortable going on long walks by myself, or I don't think about the day as like a finite, amount of time that I have to go do something. I'm just not in a hurry. I can spend the whole day. Today was spent doing sauna, hot tub, a long lunch, and then just walking around downtown Midway and then coming to you, and then I'm going to go play pickleball. And those aren't like objectives that I have anxiety. It's just kind of what just felt like the right thing to do on a sunny day. And I'm being very careful with also just not rushing back into work where we kind of start to get that rigidity towards being busy and achieving stuff. I'm finding that the best way to heal right now for me, and they say about a year and a half to kind of get into the full healing of a brain injury. So I'm just being really patient and very just not pushing myself go back to how I was in any way, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And I love what you talk about there with meditation, right? Like I've gone on and off with meditation over the last probably 12 years. And like prayer has always been a constant part of my life, but not always a stillness of prayer, right? Like sometimes it's more of kind of a rushed, like, okay, let's pray and get into the day, right? But when I incorporate pondering and meditation and just that mindfulness practice with it, it is amazing how much things slow down in general. But at first, it's really hard. It's really like it's really hard to be in the quiet, to be in the stillness, and try to figure that out because we are so consumed with chaos and just the chaotic lifestyle that we live, right? Like I love the analogy, and I think we could get into a really fun, like you could write a philosophical work on your analogy of the brain as an operating system to a degree, right? Like and I think, yeah, like we're either gonna crash or something's gonna cause us to crash, or we just slow down and we bog down unless we find these ways to, okay, let's close the apps and let's reset. And meditation becomes such a powerful reset, right? So you talk about sauna, right? Like sauna is a great opportunity to go sit in 10 minutes. It's a form of meditation, right? Like and it's a great chance to reset because most often you're not going to take your phone in the sauna with you or it's going to fry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too hot in there. And yeah, and the hot tub, I get in there for a while too, and it's just not conducive for. You can bring stuff in if you want, but I try to make that like a no phone zone. And I find myself already am longing for the first month of my injury was the best because my wife took me to Joshua Tree during Utah Tech Week, which is my partner Trent Mono started this big celebration of startups, and I just get carried away there. I go to everything, and I'm very social. And she's like, "He can't go." It was right after my injury, so she took me to Joshua Tree. I just had the best time, and a lot of meditating, walking, and just pondering. And now I'm watching myself already get a little more busy, a little more involved in my email and whatever. And it's hard already. It's harder to get even a 20-minute meditation in or prayer or a moment of silence. Already, it's I can see it slipping away. But I don't have the anxiety towards it. It's not like I'm letting myself get too much anxiety, but I can feel the longing for that I had in that first week or month of the injury where I was had ample amounts of time to myself and to think. And I remember during that time meditating on this future that I'm in right now. I knew that it was going to change, that I would not be lying down sleeping most of the time trying to recover. My back was broken. I couldn't really do anything, couldn't lift. So I knew that I was in a special time where I should use that to redesign the life that I want to have in the like right now or into the future. And it felt the only way I could think about it, I was talking a lot, is that I'm 44 right now. I'll turn 45 this year, and in a lot of ways that's a half life. That's kind of humans live to 80, 90 years if you're doing things right and trying to keep yourself kicking till you're 90. So I'm halfway there to 90. And so this injury is I go to a like a play with my family, and there's that halftime. I go to a game, sports, there's that halftime. And then you go pee, you get your food, you talk a little bit, intermission. I'm in that intermission right now. And I'm trying to make sure that when I go back into the game, back into my seat, that I got what I needed from the intermission, that I took the time to heal, redesign. But yeah, and that intermission could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. I don't know what it is, but that's what I'm in right now, and I'm using that time to figure out how I want to go back into the second quarter or the second half of this football game,
Yeah.
soccer game, whatever analogy you want. So that I haven't thought of that for about a month, but then when I was in the middle of it, I knew that this was my timeout, my halftime, my intermission, and I'm ready to. And I'm gonna keep myself here in this cocoon for a while, and then I'm gonna come back with what I'm doing for the second half of life.
Oh, that's great. I love that kind of thought process that's going on. One thing that's interesting, you bring up that you're turning 45 this year, as am I.
Oh wow!
And it's the year right now is 2025, right? Like, what's
Mhm.
fascinating, I had somebody point this out to me a while ago, is that the square root of 2025 is 45. And
Wait, really?
yeah. And so that's fascinating. The next time that we have a square rootable year will be 2116. So in 91 years.
And when was the last square rootable
The
year?
the last one would have been, let's see, what's 44 squared? So 1936.
No way.
So so you and I are turning 45 in this square rootable year, which the square root is 45, which is like mind blowing. And it's kind
Yeah,
of like, okay,
yeah, you blew my mind. You blew my
like
mind.
the stars are like aligned for this magic year, right? Like, it's like we're a third of the way through this year, right? Well, fourth and a little bit, right? Through this
Oh
year.
man, you
But
just
it's
gave me my email for I'm sorry, that's too good.
so there's your next Substack article.
Yeah, that's just wow. There are very few people alive that have been a square root year. Wait, hold on. So they would have been 40. So they would have had
So you would
they
have
would
to
have
be 44 in 1936.
oh, so they're not with us anymore.
No. And
We're the only living square rootable birthdays
yeah.
of
Yeah.
the 1980 kids or
Yep.
whatever that would be. Yeah.
Night. Yep. So
Oh, I'm happy about that. I don't know. You just made my day. I always knew I was special, Jeremy. I always knew I was special in some weird way. I didn't know it was going to be my birthday in my square root year. So something's got to happen this year too. I don't know what that is.
yeah.
Maybe it already
No,
happened. Actually, it happened the seventh day of the year. It
that
happened for
happened in
me.
January, right?
Stay off skis, Jeremy. Don't do anything that seems too risky. Don't choose to close your apps automatically by just kind of closing them. Don't go crash the computer.
Yeah, I had a back injury just after COVID. So I think it was what, 21, I think it was when it was. And I was literally like I was laying on the floor for the entire month of November that year, and it's no fun, right? Like, and yeah, it's rough when we start to feel like, thankfully some cortisone shots. I didn't have to do any surgery or anything. Cortisone saved me and I've been back at it, and I'm again mountain biking and skiing and running and stuff. Which is great. But yeah, it resets perspective for sure when the body breaks down in certain ways. And um a major accident it's a scary thing. So it's an awakener for sure. So so like, coming off of that, you stopped following people, you talk about on your Substack, like, just, and we've talked about already, right? Like this reset. Are those kind of the biggest learnings that you've had from this brain injury, or are there other things that have really stood out to you since this event?
I mean, this I could go on for days, honestly, about all the learnings and feelings and things that I just sat and thought about. I mean, I don't have enough time to I haven't had enough time to make a ton of new habits from my learnings or put into practice some of the things I've been leaning on. But the big one is religion, honestly. I grew up in a religious state and among a religious family, religious people. And I found myself less zealous or less religious in the way that I was taught to be religious. And yet, in some ways, if I kind of break it down in different words, I'm probably more religious than I've ever been, and more spiritual than I've ever been, and more thoughtful about the universe and all the many creeds and deities and purposes that people subscribe to. And so a lot of my time in bed was like, what is religion? I try to zoom out as if I'm not in Utah or America and I just what is religion? If I take away time and take away geography, there's what is it? It's just at the root. What is this thing that people do where they encapsulate their deepest beliefs into some theme that then brings community around them that they kind of merge with. And some people don't do that community. Some people do it very independently. Some people are part of big communities. So I've been pondering and pondering on religion because I feel like there's something there, in the sense that you'll hear people are less religious today than ever, like they're leaving the big organized religions. But in some ways, you're seeing religious fever take over and religious fervor take over the state we're in. I got knocked out right before Trump got back in office, and it was kind of crazy. I'm like, is this the world I'm in? I'm like, what is going on? It was like I'm trying to come back into the real world, and I'm like, this is a different world. I'm not going to say it's bad or good. I'm just going to say it's intense.
Yeah.
I'm totally out of politics and I could really care less about the politics. They're so temporary and so in some ways so divisive that I just decided that's not something I'm going to really put too much of my energy towards. But I am going to put my energy towards something that's also divisive but not as temporary, and that is religious beliefs. And so that's where I've been at a lot right now, is trying to figure out, do the humans have religions in a way that's like necessary for them to have? Like, are we evolutionarily like tied to these beliefs? Like, do we need religion to evolve as a people, or are we supposed to unshackle ourselves from, religious organizations that are meant to control, but maybe they give necessary community? So I'm just trying to figure out, biologically, are religions necessary for being our best selves and organizing in a peaceful way? It was the book *Sapiens* that Naval
Okay.
Harari.
Yeah.
I read that one 10 years ago, and that kind of was my unplugging from, or just kind of like, I read that and finished it, and I remember just being like, what is real anymore? You mean everything from the Volkswagen Corporation to the church that I go to are made up and myths that we use to kind of just to bring people together. And it was written so well and it made so much sense that I could not find an argument against all the points that were brought up in that book. And then I think I've been on a very spiritual journey since then to try to find something in these religions, and find what is the purpose then, if these aren't the, because I was growing up that religion was everything, and that's the whole purpose of the very reason that I breathe and I'm here, and I'm in a small minute amount of time to be tested to see if I'll do the things that get me back to my Father in heaven. And I just don't have that. It just doesn't work for me anymore. It doesn't seem that is the thing we're down here doing. It's a great story for some people and it works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. I really want to find truth that is really universally adopted, where everyone can just really jive with it. And so that's where I'm at right now, and I'm actually starting. Finally, I gave up on trying to find the religion, and I'm going to start one.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to post about that in upcoming, because you highlighted it briefly in one of your recent posts on Substack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like *Sapiens* is an interesting read, right? Like he definitely ascribes to the myth theory, and brings that up. Kant has talked a lot about this, right? To great degrees, Immanuel Kant. There is an author, I don't know if you've ever read him, he's a rabbi, but Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. He's written several books kind of around this, just, I guess, divisiveness of religion. One of them is called Not in God's Name, which I think is a fascinating read. The other one is The Great Partnership, which is kind of a partnership, like science and religion, and how do those two play together. And so, yeah, like there are so many books, right? There's so many pages written on the very thought of religion, let alone religion itself, right? Like, because we can definitely take the religious texts, whether it be the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, the Book of Mormon, the writings that, like, what people have ascribed to Buddha, or the Hindu texts, like the yeah, I can't even pronounce it, right? Like the Bhagavad Gita, right? Like, um, and it's fascinating to look at, like, across the world, that you can even go to some of these ancient civilizations that hadn't been colonized, and they still had some worshipful practice of something, right? And it's really fascinating to see how much religion is not just tied into Western culture, it's tied into nearly every culture.
Every culture. Yeah, I can't. I've gone around the world. I've tried to find places that kind of live free of religions, and there are definitely some states, some city state, or some countries that are
But
more or
even
less kind
you take on a Marxist like a Russia or whatever, right? Like, and it may be an atheist state, but
of.
there are still very religious people, right? Like the Orthodox Church has the Russian Orthodox Church has a predominant
Yep.
like influence there, right? Like there's still, and even in China, like there is still this worshipful, like just divine belief and feeling among people there, even though they live in these more atheist states per se, right?
And I think that's atheism. I don't know the definitions of everything. It's a belief that there's no God or no divinity. Maybe I don't know what it exactly entails to be atheist, but I don't know what religion also means quite yet. I'm trying to figure out if can an atheist be religious, and can they
I
have
think so.
atheist? Yeah, can you be a pagan? Can you be spiritual but be pagan or an atheist or something like that? And
I
so
think
where
pagans are very spiritual. Like I have had
exactly?
conversations with many pagans and they are very spiritual.
And
They are
so
very
I'm
connected with
really
the
trying to
spirit of
figure
the
out
earth, etc.
I'm trying to figure out what it means to be religious, and I use the word religion. I am being out loud the last about 2 weeks about me starting a religion, and it's just like I'm on a podcast with you right now, and if I was starting a company, I'd have no problem saying, "Hey, I'm starting a company. Here's a company." That's what most podcasts. I feel like most of my podcasts are about that. Like, "Hey, what are you doing right
Yeah,
now?" "Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing that." But you don't often hear, "Hey, I'm starting my religion. Let's talk about it." And it's because maybe religion is, first of all, it's not. People kind of grow up in one, and I don't think they're really approved upon. I don't think religions are. They're not fluid in their kind of in their design to be, always being added to. It actually seems like they're contrary to that. They don't want to be added to. They kind of want to preserve the ancient texts and stuff like that. But I don't know where the rules are that says a religion can't be like continually growing and it's changing rapidly with new learnings, just like any startup would. So, and the word religion is triggering to a lot of people, especially people that have religious trauma from maybe they grew up in a church that did not, either the family or leaders didn't do the worship or teach or act in a way that was good for that. So there's a lot of religious trauma, especially in the state of Utah. It's abundant here. Doesn't You don't have to look far for it, and I'm sure it's in a lot of places where there's a dominant religion and then maybe some subgroups. And I don't even think I think it's just everywhere. There's a little bit of that. So I'm talking openly about it because it feels like it's a conversation that doesn't need to be taboo or hidden. And I know people are going to go, "Yeah, he hit his head and now he's starting a religion. Yeah, crazy old Scott." That's exactly what happened. So I can't deny that. Here's what my religion is, though. It's my religion. It's my belief. And just like in the crypto days, you could have your own wallet and hold your coins, right? That was my favorite part about crypto was that I didn't have to custodian my value or my tokens with a bank or with I could have it in my own possession under my own mattress with the encrypted passphrase and key and stuff. And so I feel that religion should be the same thing. I don't need to take my belief and custodian it with a business, which most religions are just they're just business. They're corporations. They're nonprofits. There's not one political party or business really encapsulates what I believe, and so I'm not going to just go put that and have them hold that my well-being or my soul in a sense. My soul's here, and it's my beliefs are here, and I'm gonna have all that in my possession, or I'm going to custodian my own beliefs, and that's what I'm doing. So when I say I'm starting a religion, I actually don't want a single follower. It's just my family, and if they don't have to follow if they don't want to. But my wife's down to help, and she loves the idea. I live on a beautiful ranch, and we're just going to convert it to a place of worship. And I'm kind of restoring an old belief that most of the ancient religions worshipped, and that's the sun that goes around every day. and I'm just going to have
Scott,
her
have you
do
ever
those.
read The Surrender Experiment?
No,
Okay.
I
So
will. I'm going to cue that up.
yeah, so Michael Singer, I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you at all.
I read a lot about Peter Singer, but not Michael.
So Michael Singer started a company in the 80s that went on to, it was a medical billing software that went on to merge with WebMD
Okay.
in a really big merger at the time, right? But he never had plans to be a software developer. He actually started um, in building a meditation temple in the woods in northern Florida.
Okay.
And then he started doing some construction and ended up starting a construction company. And then he walked into a Radio Shack one day and saw a computer. This was like the late 70s. And he just felt like he should buy it. So he spent the $600 or whatever to buy this computer. And then he went and he started teaching himself basic, or what I think that's what it was at the time, right? And started writing computer programs for people. And then it kind of became a business. And then he
That's
had
great.
two people approach him, two different companies that were like, "Hey, can you build a medical billing software for us?" And he's like,
Jeez.
"No." He's like, "I can't do that." And they're like, "Well, okay." And then they came back to him later. They're like, "No, really, can you do this?" And he was like, I probably can, but it'll take this long." And they both were like, "Okay, that's fine as long as we can have input along the way." And so
Yes.
he ended up building it. But so the Surrender Experiment is his whole life in just giving into what he calls the voice. He wrote another book called The Untethered Soul, where he talks a lot about.
I have heard. I think I've heard of both of these actually.
So The Untethered Soul is his more well-known book.
Yeah.
But the Surrender Experiment is his book about his experience going through it, right? But that was like his approach, right? Like it wasn't, he's like, I'm not starting a religion per se, right? Like we're gonna have a meditation temple, a place where people can come. We'll have guided meditations, we'll have meditation time. It's a place of gathering. And so I think that, yeah, that can kind of resonate to what you're looking at. You bring up a lot of really interesting questions here, right? Like what is spirituality? What is religion? What it like it's the all the old questions, right? Like why do we exist? Why are we here, right? Like, but I think the bigger questions is to like what is religion, right? Like what defines religion is a very interesting question. And I think it tends to be such a hot topic question with many people because, and I think it's different than starting another organization, because a religion tends to talk about things that go beyond just our earthly experience, right?
Yeah.
It tends to go beyond, and it tends to define or attempt to define our very existence, right? Like our being, right? Like whether you look at Descartes, right? Like not not starting a religion, right? But having this very conversation, right? Like going back to the brass tacks, like, okay, like am I really even existing, right? Like am I even a person, or is this just some just ephemeral like vision in whatever, right? Like is, or am I like, and so coming down to the great phrase of I think therefore I am, right? And that's not where he stops. And so then he starts, because he pairs it all down to that, and then he builds it up, right? I don't know if you've I don't know if you've AI'd Descartes'
I
meditations yet,
haven't
but
yet, but I will. I got 3 books from today that I
so
got to go give my 4,000
um
words to.
but so yeah, like so you look at Descartes, right? Like you've talked about Plato's Republic, right? Like Plato goes into these conversations a lot, right? Like how should great societies be? How should we look at our eternal existence, right? Like looking at all of these things. And then you look at the pre-Socratic Greek philosophers, right? Like these are not new conversations that you're having by any stretch, right? Like
No,
and
I mean, let me just shoot straight. I'm creating, for me, it's a religion around the sun. There's nothing new about that. There's temples all
right,
over the world dedicated to sun gods from the Mayan, Aztec, the Hindu,
Egyptian, where yeah,
the
absolutely.
Egyptians. They all have their sun gods. They were worshiping it. And then AI started telling me that the reason we don't worship the sun anymore is because scientists found out that it's a big burning star. I'm like, still seems pretty important to me. I don't, I mean, that's still incredible. It's still, all I know is that the sun predictably comes up and goes down. I've had so many experiences in its presence, in its warmth. It's, it's it feels like it's pretty important. I don't know what I do without it. And
So I
so I'm just going
yeah,
to strip down my religion to things that I'm not going to wear some. It's a the faith thing is also pretty hard because I don't know if we need faith as much as we just need to be great, have gratitude for something we already know gives life and is there. And I'm just going to start there. Something really easy to talk to a kid about. Something very simple that we can meditate towards and talk about when we're in its presence that makes a lot of people not depressed. That sun does a lot for a lot of people.
absolutely.
And everybody else is just maybe more I feel like all the other religions just are complexity on top of that. And the sun is no skin color. It didn't come from Palestine. It didn't come from China. It didn't come from. It's just there. It's been there for a long time. So you don't have to fight wars about it. Really, you just have to be thankful. So I'm just going to start with the sun and see if I can if there's anything I need after that. I don't know. I think I'm going to be doing a lot of just going backwards and finding out what millennia and millennia of people that found gratitude and thankfulness for that sun. And I'm going to start there. And my wife will do it with me. She's already excited about it. And it's going to be a lot of meditation. And we're going to have to. And I think a lot of this came from just thinking about all the benefits too that religions have in the country of America, where we can be our beliefs are basically protected by the Constitution and other things. And I'm like, I don't feel like I have the same privilege as the church that's down the street. My house is where I do most of my worship and spirituality, yet I'm still paying property taxes, and they're absorbent. And so, yeah, they're way too much. So I'm like, I'm gonna turn my house into church. Easy, done. I'm gonna have all the same privileges of the church, and I'm not gonna go pay 10% to that church or 15 there or 5% there. No, that's a fee that the bank wants to charge you to put your soul in their custodianship. I'm gonna custodian my faith, my religion, my beliefs, my purpose in my home and in my own heart and with my family. And that's the same rights that every person has. It's an individual. So I'm really unbundling with this. I'm going to show other people how to make their own religion too. It's so simple. It's $33 in the state of Utah. Everyone should have their own religion if they want that, and they don't have to make it official, but they can have it in their heart. And guess what? It's compatible with any of your existing religions. You can go do all your other religions, unless some religions do say you have to have us as your only religion. There are some that don't believe you can stack religions. I think religions is stackable as knowledge or food or whatever. You can put things together and get a better outcome.
So I
So
think the way that you're using the term religion, and like I'm not I'm not going to say you're wrong or you're right in this instance,
it's
right?
fine,
Like,
yeah.
but I think what is really interesting to me is the way in which you're using the term religion is I think that there is a really interesting dynamic as far as like stacking religions, right? Because like I think within my faith and the faith that you're very familiar with, right? You bring up the word meditation a lot, and it there's almost this like fear of it for some reason, even though I've heard it from the pulpit many times. It still has, for some reason, it has this Eastern, it's too Eastern, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and I think that's the same across a lot of Western religions when you start to incorporate words or thoughts or ideas that are more Eastern based.
Yeah.
There tends to be this stigma against it, right? And I think that's wrong, because I think that we do need to be meditating, right? Like we do, like there are a lot of things that I have looked at in Eastern religions, heck, in pagan beliefs and others that are like, okay, like I really want to incorporate that into my worship, into my practice, right?
Mhm.
Into the way that I am and that I grow. I consider myself an amateur scholar of scripture, and I don't see any, my brain is spinning on this, right? But as you talk about the sun and as you define the way you see the sun, I completely agree with you. We need to have more gratitude, right? I'm not going to ascribe to worshiping the sun, but I should be grateful for it. But I also see it as a powerful symbol of other things that I strongly believe in, because of, especially with some of the words that you just used, right? Like seeing it, the warmth, the reliance that we can have on it. The earth literally revolves around the sun. Like, it is the center of our universe, right? Like, all of these things really kind of put the sun as this really interesting diorama of like what a lot of us might ascribe to worship, right? Like, whether I'm Buddhist or Hindu or Islam or Christian or whatever, right? Like, it can at least play this great symbol of what is at the center of my beliefs, right? And I think for like where you're at with you personally and your personal journey, I think that's a powerful place to start, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
to say, okay, I'm resetting and that's what I'm going to start my focus on.
yeah.
And
And I actually don't think worship, that's another thing with religions. Worship might not be necessary in religion. Idea of worship is actually a little, it does give me a little bit, I get the same thing where some people might hear meditation and get a little bit cringe. I'm feeling that with the word worship.
So I think defining the word worship is important too, right? Because I think that there is the idea of worshiping, okay, I can worship my favorite football team, right? And that I'm putting all my time and energy into that, and I hate and I have this hatred towards anybody that supports any other
Yeah.
football team, right? Like, and I think that's where we tend to think of worship. Whereas I think of worship personally as this, okay, I'm looking at a deity personally, and I am ascribing to live in the example of that deity as best as I can, knowing that I'm going to be imperfect at it.
Hmm.
And but striving to do as asked by a deity to do, because that's what I have found that brings me joy. That to me is worship. But I also believe that in that vein, I should not be exclusionary. Like, because we could be having this conversation and I could be hardlining with you and be like, no, you're an idiot, right? Like, but I'm not, because I don't want to be, right? Like, that's not a healthy
The
dialogue for
truth
either
is
one
you
of us.
can't, Jeremy.
I can't. Go
I
on.
don't think you can. With deity, this is the struggle with deity, is if we're on a debate and there's polls below and the general population's watching it, the sun is undeniable. It's there
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
good and it gives. But no one in all my searching can make their deity more impressionable than the sun. It's
Sure.
impossible. You can't do it.
No, I
And
hear
if you
that.
could, I would love that. I would love to see Jesus come out of the sky. I would love anything like that. I want deity to exist. It sounds hella cool to have deity among human beings. That would be the raddest like version of the world we could be in. The truth is, it's not the case. From my lived experience, I'm only going to talk about to my children and to my friends the things that I've observed in the real world, and they're all so good already. I don't need to actually fabricate anything more than what I've already observed and feel. And in that, for me, there isn't any sign of deity beyond ourselves. I think we are the deity. We're gods, and our humans are incredible. My puppy over here, my dog, they're gods in their world. They're incredible. They're the only deity I need, but they don't. But I'm not going to worship them in that sense. They're not all powerful. And if someone could, if anyone, any podcaster, anywhere in the world could come and sit with me and convince me that there's something more powerful than the sun, all ears. But that's what I'm trying to say is you can't hardline with me, because that's the problem with religions of today, is that they try to hardline something that isn't that you can't hardline. And the sun, I'm going to debate everyone in the world on the sun right now, and I'm going to win. And I'm not trying to win. I'm just going to
No,
say
I
like,
hear you.
I'm
Yeah.
going to
No,
something
like,
else.
no, absolutely, right? Like,
And I want to give everyone
and
something they can believe in. I don't want to teach my own kids about something that I can't know. I don't want to set them up for what happened to me, which is I came to a realization that the thing that I was raised in didn't serve me anymore. I don't want to have that separation from my children on a belief. I would rather grow with them and strengthen my relationship on things that we can have in common, that we can both look at and I can talk about with them, and it's right there. And it's been the most incredible thing, because I want to pass down to my children things that they can have for the rest of their life and work with. Don't cause separation from any of their friends or family. And The sun just doesn't separate. The sun brings us warmth and light and grows our food and keeps us on every human and every living creature in the same, like the same path, the same, like it's agreeableness. It's light. And if someone else can show me something like the sun, I'm ready for it. Jeremy, I'm ready. I want more suns in my life. So if you got
Sure.
that, you can take the next 5 minutes and tell me what you got.
Wow. My belief is founded in a faith of something that I cannot or have not yet seen. But no, like I said, I think the sun is a great place to start with where you're at, right? Like, because a lot of what you've mentioned, right? But I think it comes down to it is this existing thing that provides sustenance, warmth, life, right? Like, we do not exist without the sun. Like, we we literally cannot exist without the sun.
Why do we need anything more than the sun?
Well, I think the answer to that question lies in whether we believe if there's anything after we leave this presence of the sun, or if anything existed before we came into presence of the sun.
But again, that's unknowable. And so
It is,
we,
yeah,
we shouldn't we shouldn't chase
it's
things. I
unprovable,
found in
yes.
my life it doesn't serve me at all. It doesn't gather, it doesn't create unity to try to create community around the unknowable. I want to be proved otherwise, but I feel like we should stop with what we know we have and then try to create a utopia in that present state. Heaven and hell, past and future, those bring sadness and anxiety. I can't remember who I was reading that said that, but this right now seems like we have so much right now. We have all that we need to even when someone tries to sell you something in the future or the past or is telling you something that really the motives for that have me questioning a lot lately. And I just keep going down. I sat in bed for 2 months thinking, why? And I'm asking all my religious friends, why do I need that? Why do I need that? And I came down to it. There's something that the humans struggle with not knowing, or they're either afraid or they're hopeful, but it's something that they want. It's because they're not at peace with the fact that it could all be over when the sun bursts or when our heart stops beating. And I have found such peace with the fact that that doesn't matter. That's not all the sun is shining while my heart's beating. I'm just gonna enjoy the present moment. And so I'm really suspect of needing anything more. I know this podcast going way different than
No,
you
that's
do, but
great,
that's
right? Like,
I just really want to challenge anyone who's hanging on to think the future or the past because I think that is where a lot of human anxiety and sadness comes from and
so
division.
I want to push on you a little bit here, Scott.
I love it.
And just so you had this accident 3 months ago,
Hmm.
right? And you haven't had to work for the past 3 months.
I mean, I haven't had to work for 10 years because I bought
Right.
Bitcoin. So that changed everything.
So
So I have a lot of time to think.
you had done things in the past that allowed your future self to be able to be more in a present state, right?
That is true. Since I was a little kid, I always wanted to create a world where I wasn't subject to someone else's needs or will. And I wanted to be independent so that I could be in the present or work for myself or do what my purpose or desires were. That's true. And so that's been about 10 years that I've been in that
And so,
situation.
but you had to do things to set yourself up for that ability to be in that present state. You had to have other ducks in a row. There were things that you had to accomplish leading up to then, okay, now I'm in a point where I don't have to worry about it, right? Because most people listening to this podcast, like if they have a brain injury, a back injury, okay, they could maybe take 6 weeks off of work, not a year and a half, right? Not
Yeah, I do
like
understand that most people, yeah, definitely most people are even in around me are don't have that privilege to be retired. Doesn't mean I don't work. I choose to actually create
right. No, I know you do, right? Like,
every day
and
for
that's not what
humanity
I'm
and
putting in
create.
question here, right? Like,
But I do have the luxury to never do something for someone else, in a laborist way, and or what? Yeah, I don't. That is a privilege and a luxury that I earned through strategy and school and did an MBA and made investments at the right time and took a lot of time. But yeah, you're right. I set myself up in the past to have the future that I have.
And so the way that I view religion, or most people's belief and faith, right, is the doing things that allow themselves to be set up for that point when it's like, okay, well done, thou good and faithful servant, to quote the Bible, to quote Jesus, right? Um, that there is this action that, okay, if the sun bursts, if things go right, like I want to be in a state where I'm comfortable with when that happens, that I know that I'm going to be okay. And for a lot of people of faith, that's why they practice faith. That's why they practice their religion, is because they foresee some future existence. Whether that's a Hindu that believes that he's going to go through the 7 layers, right? And then finally be brought up and be reunited back, right? Like, or be a Buddhist reaching that point of enlightenment, or be a Christian where I'm going to a heaven, or a Latter-day Saint to inherit a celestial kingdom, or Islam going on to their paradise, right? Like whatever it is looking at, okay, I have certain things, rituals, beliefs, practices that I want to ascribe to and live by, so that I can be in that state where I can be completely present. Yes, should we be more present every day through that journey? Absolutely. Do we tend to fear the future too much across all beliefs, all of us? Absolutely, we do, right? Like we don't ascribe to hope enough. We ascribe too much to fear. We don't live today as much as we should, right? Like completely agree with all of that. We are not grateful enough for the things, the bounty, the abundance that is around us, right? Like we miss that, right? Like, and I think that's universal.
Yeah.
But talking about faith, right? Talking about religiosity is looking at, okay, I ascribe to that the sun exists, but the sun came into existence somehow. And it was not an ex nihilo creation. It was not created out of nothing. It was not a big bang. And
We
so
don't, but we don't know. That's just
but
impossible
we
to know.
don't know it, right? Like I get it, right? Like
But
I
I
am
know it's there.
talking,
But I know it's there
I
right now.
know, I'm talking about things that are unprovable, right? And that is what faith is things that are unprovable. Um, I until I see that sun come up tomorrow, it is not provable that it will come up tomorrow. I have a lot of likelihood that it will, because it consistently has come up tomorrow for 45 years of my life, right? Like I have seen it come up, and so okay, tomorrow I expect it to come up, right? But until it comes up, it's unprovable. And yes, that's in a very small microcosm, but until I see God, yeah, he's unprovable, right? Until
But,
I see
but you've
Jesus
seen the sun.
resurrected,
You've
like
seen the
that's
sun.
unprovable aside from the records that have been written and recorded, right? Like
Yeah,
so,
but you see
but
the
I can
sun.
see the sun every single day, hopefully, right? I hope it'll come up tomorrow. I expect it will, right? And if we carry this conversation into tomorrow, then
And
you'll be like, see, you'll
I'll
be
bet
like,
you $1,000 right now that'll come up tomorrow.
and I won't take that bet because I have very strong assurance that it's going to
I'll
come
bet
up
you $1 million.
tomorrow,
I'll bet you $1 million you don't see a God or a Jesus in your lifetime.
and I won't take that bet. Actually, I might take that bet, but
Let's do it on the blockchain. That'll be a good one. I take that bet. But that's actually not a fun one because then you have to wait too long for the. I like ones that have an end date. So,
hopefully we still have
yeah.
another 45 plus years before we figure out the answer to that one.
I just think that the fact that even that you said there's so many things that people use to plan for the future, different things. That's the problem. That's the issue right there. It's like how can one individual faced with all these many paths for them like to develop a
You're
way
right.
to,
Religion
and
is
I'm
not
just like,
universal. You're
no,
right.
I'm just gonna give my kids, my 10-year-old I'm going to teach her what works for me and how I got here. And it's really hard. You have to have a little bit of like bravery, I think, in today's world to start a religion and to branch off from all the thinking of the time. And that was kind of how my actual religion that I grew up in was taught to me. And so I'm doing the very thing that I was taught. I'm restoring an old religion, and I'm going to get a lot of slack from it. But I think I'm going to get a lot of people that enjoy it. And I'm not looking for a single follower. I'm not looking for a donation. I'm just doing it for myself. And I'm going to teach everyone around me how to do it for themselves too. And I do believe it's
But this
stackable.
is
I think you could do it right now, being a tithe payer of the LDS Church, and I think a Catholic and I think a monk could do it from following Buddha. I think anyone could do it. So that's my second half. I think is going to be very punctuated by religiosity, spirituality, and I hope. And this is the first podcast I've really talked about anything like this on. It's the first podcast I've done since I've hit my head. So you've got, I think most of the future is me talking about this. I'm not as interested in VC and venture cap stuff I've been doing. I don't have the same attention and interest in that space of transaction and finances. Those to me are they're just the, like, I don't know, they're part of the game, but they're not the end game at all. They're not the part that I want to be at where I am at in my life right now. So right now I'm very focused on health and wellness with my AI company. And this is the logo right here. Happens to have a circle, which is interesting with this whole sun thing going on. Um, and then kind of this my family and the legacy or the preservation of the land that we have and the beliefs that we have. I want to try to find something that my whole family can be a part of, and not something that can eventually divide the family, which I've seen in almost every one of my friends and my family, everyone I grew up with, everyone I know who grew up Mormon, literally everyone has a situation where the family has become divided and distanced because one, two, or three of the members no longer followed this faith that said that you had to kind of stay together to get to this part of the thing. And there's just lots of stress and lots of sadness that comes when the family thinks a different way. And it
well,
happened to
let
my
me be
family.
one of those friends that's not the case, right? Like,
But
so,
that's give yourself 45 more
but it's
years. I guarantee a child, a mother, a father, a cousin,
no,
you'll
I have members of my family who are not practicing, right? Like, and don't ascribe to it, but we're
yeah.
not divided. That's my point, right? Like,
But
I
in a way, you are divided. The brain is divided, meaning there is in that religion, it's taught that there is a little bit of a separation. Like if they're not, I don't know any other way to put it, but it's very significant to me in all that I've observed that it's not a religion that accepts the separation of belief within the family in any nice way. It's actually
so
it's
I
actually
yeah, I think that's
there's
a
no way
cultural
around it.
thing
I have a
in
child
some
that's not
instances, but I
baptized, and she's shamed, and she's it's very tough for any person in that religion that doesn't go with the faith. They have ways to make it actually really hard for the people that aren't in it, through the temples that people go in to get married, that they can't see their own families do that thing. It's not set up for differences of belief. If someone leaves a faith, there's no your badge for all the service you gave us and the mission you went on. They're not going to give you any care package as you leave all that volunteer service you did. And so my belief is that many religions don't look for division. And I can see why they do that. If I'm building an organization, in the olden days, I would have probably like tried to figure out that same structure, but we're not in those days right now. We're in a very fluid, new consciousness that the world has. We're all interconnected immediately through these podcasts like this, people that grew up in so many different ways. And I have my kids who they themselves quickly saw things in the religion that they grew up in that were the antithesis of what they believed. There was stuff going on at the very church that they went to that was homophobic behavior, and so they separated from it way before we did. And I said, who do I want more who do I want to be closest to? Who do I want my brain to be synced with? It would be my own posterity over anything. I want to know and be in their like-mindedness. And so this is what I'm coming up with is something that families can stay in the same. I really want to find something that can bring some where everyone can nod in agreement. We even started praying last night during dinner. We prayed to the sun god that was right outside shining in on our table, and I thanked the sun for the peppers that it grew that we're eating and all that. And then for the first time in years, our kids said a prayer to the sun god. I'm like, this is crazy. This is exactly what I thought could possibly happen if I found something that wasn't made up, that wasn't one belief that somebody had at some point. I realized that the sun is something that every human being can give gratitude to universally. And so I'm at a place right now where this works right now for us, and I can't see it ever become. I mean, I can't see my kids denying the sun. It just would be. And there's flat earthers out there, right? There are people that can just deny things that seem obvious to me. But right now, the sun seems really universal and really important in all of our lives. And I've had so many experiences in its presence and its warmth, and during sunsets, holding my wife's hand, being somewhere, eating the food that is grown. I'm going to start there. And if I feel like additions need to be made, I think there will be, and there's going to be a lot. And I hope that you have some for me, and I hope that you could help build up some of my articles of faith and belief and put them into practice for your family. But that's where I'm at right now, and it feels so good and it feels so right. And I know I'm sitting here like bearing testimony of the sun. That's where I'm at, Jeremy. It
Scott,
feels so good to me, and I'm looking at it
yeah,
right now, reflecting
no,
outside my surroundings.
it's starting to creep down below the blinds and come into the office here, right? Like,
Can you feel it?
um,
It's warm.
absolutely. No, like there are two things that I definitely take away from this conversation. There's more, right? Like there's a lot we can dive into, right? But one, first and foremost, is regardless of what our beliefs are, we need to be more accepting. We need, like, tolerance is not enough. I really struggle with the word tolerance because I can tolerate a sliver in my finger. I can tolerate having a rock in my shoe on a long hike, but that doesn't mean that I like it. And
Yeah.
so tolerance is not enough, but we need to have more love and acceptance and universality in every aspect of our lives. I'm a very faith-filled individual. I'm a very religious individual. I it's come up on this conversation, right? Like there are certain things that I ascribe to, right? But I also believe that we are all greater, like we are all part of this great experiment, whatever we want to call it, right? And we are all universally here together to do our best to strive to help each other as best as we can, right? And so we need to be more universal in thought, in conversation, in love, in approach, and appreciate, right? Like the things that you just shared about with what your kids had to deal with, and what, like, obviously you didn't get into too many details, but like not feeling like there's that level of acceptance is wrong, right? Like that needs to be rooted out of any religious experience, right? And I get that there are certain rules and things that are well defined with certain religions that are not necessarily going to be overcome per se, right? Like, but in certain way, right? Like, and so I like what you're coming at, the way you're approaching this. In there is one thing that we can all believe in, right? There's one thing that we can all universally agree on, and hopefully we can all agree on the sun and its greatness, right? Like, but then the second thing is recognizing the gifts that we are given, right? Like this Mother Earth, the sun, what it provides, right? Like as mentioned, right? Like we do not exist without the sun. Like there's no way, right? Like oxygen, right? Like there, all of these things, are we recognizing these things on a regular and consistent basis? Like I love the fact that you and your family are there giving thanks for the sun, its warmth, the food, the vegetables, the things on your plate that it has provided for, right? Like, and whether you do that to the sun, whether you do that to a god, whether you do that to the earth, what, like, right? But recognizing the things that we have been given, because I don't, like, it's amazing to me, right? Like we were watching something on some streaming channel the other day with my kids, and we had it paused, but up on the screen came a QR code to thank a farmer, right? And so I did it, right? Like I was just like, it takes you to a website, you can leave a little message, right? I don't know who it goes to. I don't even know if it goes to anybody, right? But I put in, I'm like, thank you for making, like, not making me have to go grow my own crops, right? like we live in a world today where I don't have to slaughter my own cattle. I don't have to defeather my own chickens. I don't have to like I can grow my own garden, right? But I can't grow avocados in Utah unless I have a greenhouse. Like I love avocados. So thank you to the farmers and the pickers and those that have provided avocados for me to eat, right? Like I like lemons. I can't grow a lemon tree unless I have a greenhouse here, right? Like and so there are a lot of things that we've been blessed with, right? And none of that exists without the sun.
You're talking too religious with me here about the sun thing.
So talking about okay, can I stack religions, right? Like that becomes a very hard idea for some people. I get it. But like can I are there things that I can learn from Scott's faith, Scott's belief, right? Like Scott's sun religion here, right? Absolutely,
It's only
right?
2 weeks old though, so
Absolutely.
if you learn anything from a 2 week old religion, then I'm really doing good. That means I got something. I got product market fit. I got religion market fit, whatever that.
No, I love it. I think we could carry on. There's a lot of other things we could dive into. We didn't even get into phi today, right? But um I yeah, I think life is a journey, right? It's an experience. And we're all here to try and figure out this experience and how do we contribute to the greater whole of society as best as we possibly can, right? I know here within the Utah community, you've done a lot for a lot of people, whether it's making investments or just aligning connections or what, right? Like there's a lot of things that you've done in your previous 45 years, right? And at this halftime, right? Like what's this next 45 years look like, right? And do you end up turning the ranch into a sun meditation retreat, how like whatever that ends up being, right? Um, but it's yeah, I so thank you for your time today, Scott. I appreciate like I have enjoyed this conversation. I don't agree with everything, but that's okay. And
You
but I
don't agree with the
appreciate the
sun?
conversation. I agree with the sun,
Okay.
absolutely. I don't
That's all
agree.
I've stated. That's all I've stated. I haven't made any more claims than the sun comes up tomorrow and pay you $1,000.
Well, you've negated claims, so I'll say I don't agree with the negated claim per se.
That's true. That's
But
true.
the claims that you have made that are positive claims, I don't disagree with probably all of them. I'd have to go back and re-listen to make sure I agree with all of them. But the ones that you have negated, some of those I disagree with. So there.
Okay.
But I no,
Okay,
I
all right. Yeah, that's fun.
yeah.
It's a fun. Religion is always going to create conversation. There's not a human
So
that doesn't have some experience with religion in either, even if they grew up atheist or a-religious. There's religion is abundant in our life, in our
absolutely.
politics, in our
And
products.
I think it's important that we carry on the conversation, right? That we have a healthy dialogue around it. It's when it becomes contentious that it becomes problematic. When we become too defensive on it, it becomes problematic, right? So I will finish with two questions.
Yeah.
One, what book have you read recently that you would highly recommend to others?
It's my friend Elle Griffith. She's or Griffin. She wrote this book. I know I forget how to pronounce it. Elysasian.
Elysian?
Elysian. Elysian. That's it. Elysian. Elysian. She basically has a bunch of her Substack and her writings that she's put together, and it's a book about utopian thinkers. And she herself is a utopian thinker, where we find in the world right now, and I'm going to go back on most religions. Religions are dystopian in nature. They have a future that is something has to happen that's going to be pretty horrific for a lot of people, maybe good for some. But politics and nation, like just the way that if you look at dystopian thinking towards utopian thinking, most people think it's getting worse. And L thinks, and I think that it's the best it's ever been, and it's only getting better. And Star Trek can be our future. We can travel galaxies in peace, and we don't have to. We can advance medicine to the point that we can live very well for a very long time. And so I just this book has I'm almost done with it, and it's just got me in such a different frame of mind on how we should. It sounds as simple as positive thinking, but it's quite hard to stay positive in the environment that's pressed on us from the social media, from the news, from the
Yeah.
movies. Everything's dystopian. It just takes a quick keyword search to like see how much that word is used versus utopian. So
Yeah.
go read the utopian thinkers, and she did that and kind of put a lot of it together. And also, there's this book that I forget the Pink. His name's something Pink, but it's man, I can't think of the name now. Something now.
Is it
Hard to
Daniel
find.
Pink?
Yeah, Daniel Pink. Something now. What is it? It's a really good book about statistically how everything is the best it's ever been right now by all measurable instances. Like we are in no, what is it? Something now. Dang it, Daniel Pink. I'll go look it up.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. We'll figure out what that one is.
Yeah,
But
and so
he's
that's
written a
another
couple
one.
good books, right? Like A Whole New Mind and Drive. But
Uh,
yeah, I think that's one of his newer ones.
yeah, maybe it isn't.
So I think, like, as you talk about utopianism, right? Like and
Yeah,
this is a whole nother rabbit hole we could dive down, is the whole transhumanism idea,
yeah.
right? Like, there's this level of thought around transhumanist thinking in the sense of like, okay, the millennium will exist as Christians talk about it, but it will be brought about through this progressive transhumanist idea that we'll get to the point where we create the millennium. It's not specifically ushered in. And so that's another interesting rabbit hole to kind of dive
I was
down.
in that
But
when I was heavily Mormon. I was way into the thought leaders in that space. Hugh Nibley had an idea where we would create a Zion on Earth, and it was much different than the hell damnation that you read in like Third Nephi when all the cities are blown up and flooded and all the wicked are wiped out. And my mission in Italy, I went to Italy for 2 years, and we didn't baptize anyone because every time we talked to like a pretty educated Italian family and challenge them to read the Book of Mormon, they'd get to this part where like the earth gets wiped out in Mesoamerica, and it's like where the Nephites and Lamanites were, and they're like, your Jesus is, they would say like, your Jesus is super scary, like they don't want anything to do with it. And so I was like, back then I'm like, oh, they just don't know. But now I look back on them like, dystopian people who use dystopian like futures and casual and like an end of world like scenarios where that just doesn't, that's a scary way that creates a fear, and anything that creates fear for me is the antithesis of love. And I'm not, I don't want to be a part of religions that use anything that are fear inducing. So I do believe, so I did get into like Hugh Nibley and some of the thinkers in Mormonism that thought we could kind of go towards a utopian / Zionist living, which I think Joe Smith was trying, Brigham Young were trying to do back in the day, which didn't work out. But you can see like remnants of it all over Utah, where they had those like Zion cities and stuff. So I would hope we get back to that type of thing. But that's how I think the world should go. Is it's just gonna get better and better and better, and it is by all accounts. And that's that book I'm trying to think of what is written, but we'll find it.
yeah,
So
we'll find it.
that's the book I was showing you. How
Yeah.
do you say that again?
Elysian.
Elysian. Okay.
Yeah.
Elysian. Yeah.
I think
Good stuff.
I think it's a common concept of a utopian society, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
Elysian Fields or
but
something.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, last question.
All
And
right.
this is probably my favorite question. Where have you traveled? Where's your favorite place you've traveled in the past, and why?
Well, I did get to go last month to 2 places, and they were booked before I had my injury, so it was kind of like we should try it anyway and see how we do. And went with my wife to Norway to see the World Cup for cross country skiing with a
Okay.
guy who runs the cross country venue here, an ex-Olympian. So it was really cool to go with him because he was kind of
Oh,
like
that's
the
fun.
ambassador
Yeah.
for the sport of the U.S. ski team. And Norway was a place that just kind of showed me that there are places in the world that are way ahead of us on civility. People, they were closer to what I thought would be like a Zion or like a utopian society than almost
Yeah.
anywhere I've been. And you can read about Norwegian, the state
Norway
of,
and Denmark, man, they've got it.
yeah,
They're figuring
they've
it
really
out.
figured some stuff out there. And they're not very religious, neither of those places. And so that does have me like kind of do one of those, Why are the places that have got a lot of safety and peace and stuff, and they just don't have? And then you places that have the most religion are usually the most unequal. There's not a lot of equality and not a lot of freedoms. And so I've been just thinking about that as I travel to new places. Then right after Norway, went to Paris, and Paris had a great. What I loved about Paris is I've been there before, but this time I got to walk a lot, and walking became my new favorite thing to move. That was the only thing I can really do to recover was walk.
It's
And every
so
day
good
we were
for your
walking.
back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we were walking like 8 miles everywhere. And I noticed, and I remember on my mission in Italy, same thing. Every time I saw a big fat person, it was an American visiting Milan. And the Italians, I never saw many fat Italians. Same with Paris. There's
Yeah.
just everyone walking around. And I'm like, what are they doing? I don't feel like they're going to the gym. I don't think it's that they walk a lot.
They walk and they ride their bike everywhere.
And
Like,
they have good foods over there.
and
They
they
don't
eat lots
they
of
don't put a
bread.
bunch of crap in their food. Their foods don't have a ton of crap. And so someone that grew up with a health code, that's pretty strict, realizing that a lot of these Parisians are healthier than the most of the Utahns. I'm like, damn, how do I incorporate walking into like so this kind of comes back to my religion too. I want my beliefs on wellness to be incorporate movement of the body, just like more important than anything we put in our body or put out of or whatever. That movement is what the Parisians figured out, and it was so good for me for a week to walk 8 miles a day, and it made my whole attitude and just everything. And there was the sun out every day, and that changed a lot too. The sun and walking in it is was the best part of my healing in Paris that I've had.
Yeah. So I have a friend who's been on this podcast. Do you know Richie Norton? Is that
Very well. He's my
okay?
co-founder in this company.
Oh, are you doing that with Richie? Okay.
Yeah, he
Awesome.
joined.
So Richie does 25,000 steps a day.
Really?
Um, yeah, so he literally does work while he's walking. So he just walks around the North Shore of Hawaii. And yeah, he'll post it
Wait,
every
Richie.
once in a while.
Sorry, Richie Norton. I know Richie Norton.
Yeah.
I was thinking Richie. I was thinking of another Richie that did
Okay.
Pura.
Okay.
No, I know Richie Norton too. I stayed in his house, and I went to high school with his wife, Natalie.
Okay.
And Richie definitely figured something out because he got skinny fast, and I was wondering what it was, and it must have been that's his walking. Because when I was in his
So
house in Hawaii, his clothes didn't fit me. I was using his clothes out of his closet, and I was skinnier than him. Now he's way skinnier than me. So I
yeah.
had no. It's the
No,
walking. That's what he figured out.
he's pretty shredded right now. He's been doing a lot of pull-ups too. Just trying to lift heavy things as well. But yeah, he started just walking. Like he'll
That's
post his
awesome.
step count every
That's
once in a
it. That's
while on
all.
his
I mean, all
Instagram.
our bodies are
Yeah.
designed to. They don't even need to lift that much. The walking alone will keep you, I think, in a really great equilibrium if you
Yeah. It's
do that walk.
walking is highly underrated.
Yes, that's what I learned. That was my, and so
Yeah.
Paris it gave me the testimony of walking.
Yeah. For sure. Well, Scott, thank you very much. Where can people keep up with you if they want to follow you, learn more about the religion of the sun or whatever else you're working on?
I think you can follow me at Scotty Coin on Twitter, or just my Substack, Scott's Posts.
So your Substack, you send out an email probably every couple
Yeah, I did.
weeks or
In the year
whatever.
of 2024, I sent out an email every single day at 4:20. That just became the 4:20 news. That was my entire year of 2024, and then and now I'm done writing. I was a lot, and it did what it needed to for me, and now I'm more in a meditation, and I still write, but I'm not writing publicly as much. But that's where I'll update that's where I keep people updated. Like you said, next
Yeah.
week on 420, on Sunday 420, I will do my 420 post, and it'll be the introduction to the sun religion.
So I'm going to play off what I like the symbolism here, right? But that is also the day of the rising of the sun.
Are you serious?
SSUN, because that is Easter Sunday. So,
Wait, 420. This 420 is Easter Sunday, huh?
yes.
The rising of the sun. SON. That's good.
So,
Although it happened, we believe it happened a different day, right? In Mormonism.
well,
So that's Christmas. Never mind. April 6th or something was the Christmas one. Do you see my
yeah.
shirt?
Yep.
Keep on the covenant
It's
path.
beautiful.
Right there.
Beautiful.
There's the
Beautiful.
sun. There's the
There's
sun.
the sun. Sun, stars, and moon. So, Scott, thank you so
Where
much.
will
I
you end up,
appreciate
Jeremy? Where are you going? What kingdom are you going to? I'm going right here in
I'm hoping I'll
outer
make
darkness, right here, way over here.
over on your ribs. So, Scott, thank you for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
That's good. That was a good one. Thank you for it. It
Thanks.
was very,
Yep.
very good
Thanks
time.
for sticking with us through the whole conversation, everybody. Again, this is a bit of curiosity. Please share, subscribe. So, we appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.